Imagine being sanctioned by the Western superpowers of the world while still fighting one of the major wars of the 21st century and then becoming a high income country. Sounds impossible, right? But this is actually what has happened with Russia. Russia has become a high income level country in 2024. And the interesting part is that this report is coming not from a Russian source. This is not coming from a Russian media outlet or any of its allies outlets. It is coming straight from the World Bank. With the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, Russia has also become the most sanctioned country in the world with over 18,000 sanctions. 18,000 sanctions. This is 4 times more than the second most sanctioned country in the world, and that is Iran. Now, the World Bank has reported that Russia has become a high income level country with a gross national income per capita of $14,250. At this point, you may be wondering, how can Russia become a high income country in the middle of a war? Isn't the war supposed to drain Russia's financial resources? Isn't the war supposed to make it weak? Aren't the sanctions that were imposed on Russia supposed to cut it off from the rest of the world? Well, this is certainly what the Western superpowers thought of when they were imposing these sanctions, that these sanctions would cut off Russia from the rest of the world and that Russia would become economically weak. But much to their dismay, this is not what it turned out to be. In fact, not only did Russia not falter, but it became a high income level country. And in fact, when you look at the growth rate of Russia in 2023 alone, it grew at about 3.6%. Now, when you compare the growth rate of Russia, 3.6% in 2023, with the Western powers of the world that have imposed sanctions on the country, Russia has outgrown all of those countries in the last 1 year. For instance, the US economy grew at about 2.5% in 2023. The Australian economy grew at 3%. UK grew at about 0.1%, just 0.1%. And in fact, it was on the verge of recession. Many experts even say that it was already in recession at that point of time. When we look at Japan, Japan went into recession, and so was the case with Germany. So when we look at all the Western countries that imposed sanctions on Russia, Russia outgrew all of those economies. And what if I told you that the same war that was supposed to make Russia economically weak actually is responsible for not only helping the economy grow, but also making it a high income country? You may be wondering, what am I talking about? Isn't that crazy? Isn't the idea that the war that was supposed to make it weak has made it rich in terms of becoming a high income country crazy? What has actually happened in Russia's case is that this economy has actually helped Russia to increase its production of wartime resources. When we look at its production of weapons, Russia has spent a huge amount of money on its weapons, on the production of its weapons, as well as recruiting soldiers from across the country. So the people from the poorer sections of Russia, they actually joined the military of the country. They were recruited at a higher salary. In fact, the soldiers that were recruited for the military, they were actually hired at a higher salary than what an employee at an oil industry would earn. So the Russian Federation has actually made its military a lucrative career option for the soldiers. But wait, how is the country able to pay its soldiers such a high salary when it is not able to do business with the West? And are those sanctions that were imposed on Russia not effective? Well, that is certainly not the case. Although those sanctions that were imposed by the Western nations, somewhat they slowed down the economy of Russia, but Russia found another way. Russia was able to develop its relationship with the Eastern countries, specifically China. So Russia's trade with China actually grew 80 times in just the first 8 months of the war. Not only that, but Russia was also able to find trade partners in North Korea, the Middle East, as well as countries, neutral countries like India, as well as African nations. So on one hand, when Russia has lost business with the Western countries, it has certainly able to grow its business in the eastern part of the world. And in fact, Russia's growth from rebound in trade accounts for 6.8% of its total growth. So Russia's new partners, new relationships have helped Russia grow its economy as well as finance the war that it is currently involved in. But here's another important question. Will Russia be able to continue paying its soldiers such a high salary? Well, at this point of time, it seems like Russia's newfound partnerships in Asian as well as African countries, they're working. They've not only helped Russia to keep its economy afloat, but also helped in financing this war. And on top of that, Russia has also decided to increase the taxes in the country. So what Russia is trying to do is impose a tax on its ultra rich and ultra wealthy people as well as corporations. So the burden on the middle class is not much. And while it is true that the corporations that will be paying taxes will actually pass on the taxes onto their customers, but still what Russia is trying to do is lower the burden on the middle class. So in a way, this particular war is partially going to be financed by the ultra rich people of Russia as well as the corporations. So at this point of time, it seems like Russia has a plan to keep financing the war as long as it is able to maintain its relationship with Asian as well as African countries and also impose this extra progressive tax. But here's another important question. Will Russia be able to maintain its status as a high income country if the war were to stop tomorrow? Now, there are two things to look at. If the war were to stop tomorrow, many of the post-war sanctions that were imposed on Russia, they will be taken off. They would be removed by the Western countries. So Russia would be able to do business. It will be able to resume its business with the Western countries. At the same time, the relationship that it has maintained and also grown with the Eastern powers, with the Eastern countries, China, North Korea, India, Middle Eastern countries, this will be an added bonus to Russia's economy. Looking at that point, Russia should be better off. At the same time, when we look at the other aspect of it, if and when this war stops, Russia won't need a significant part of its military. So all of those soldiers that were recruited during this particular time period in order to fight the war, they would be sent back. They would have to head back home and resume with their normal lives. And that would take away their income source that was coming from being employed in the military. So if the military personnel, if the soldiers that were fighting the war, they go back to their homes, and if they are not able to find any work, they would become unemployed. And unless they are employed somewhere else, their situation would be financially worse off. So at this point, it is difficult to say if Russia would be able to maintain a high gross national income per capita if we were to witness a ceasefire or an end to the war tomorrow altogether. But if Russia is able to shift its military personnel somewhere else in other growing sectors of the country, then it could maintain a high income status. But that also comes with a lot of challenges. We have to answer and solve a lot of questions before we can actually understand what would happen in such a case. Would the soldiers be able to work in a different environment? How much money would the Russian Federation actually spend on retraining its employees and providing them with the necessary skills so that they can carry on with their lives in a totally different sector? And at the same time, would private sector be involved? Would the role of the private sector increase in this particular regard? So we'll have to wait it out and see what happens when this war actually stops, when we actually witness a ceasefire or an end to the war altogether. How will Russia maintain its high income status? With that being said, do you think that Russia will be able to maintain its high income status? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you found this video valuable, please share this video with your friends and family, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching this video and have a great day.